Welcome on to the How to Cut It podcast, Guy Kleinhaus.
Thank
Guy,
you so much.
great to have you join us, mate.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, a big fan of the podcast, and this is seriously a dream come true. So thank you.
It seems to me at the moment that your career is really blowing up. And have you found a more of an impact happening in your career since you've come to London?
Yeah, no doubt. It's just like completely transformed my life in a sense. It's like I had a really good setup in Cape Town. Life was good. I was very comfortable. My career was perfect, but I kind of just felt like I needed a little bit more. And I've always looked up to London hairdressing. I think it's like the mecca of hairdressing. And yeah, it was always a dream of mine to be there. And yeah, I decided to make the move. And literally as I landed, I like hit the ground running. And it was really like super unexpected. I didn't think it would like kind of take me in its hands like it did and carry me like it did. And it's been unbelievable. I definitely thought it would be way harder, but it's really been good to me.
So before you got to London, did you already have a place of work that you were going to go to? And maybe, okay. And that was?
Oh, that's Cobella in Kensington. So Jordana is a pretty good friend of mine. We've known each other through social media for a long time. And I met her at the Weller Destinations event last year, 2023, in the Grand Canary. And it was super cool because it was like, oh, you know, when you meet your Instagram friend and it's just like, we just had like such a cool little conversation. And I really looked up to her, like the like fleeting meeting we had. She had like such words of wisdom. And when I was kind of
good friend of ours, Jordana, very inspirational.
She's incredible.
And you're actually, I see, artistic director at Cobella Salon.
Yeah, that's also a huge honor.
Yeah, it's an incredible honor, really. But I can see why you are, because I know the hairdresser you are. There'll be a lot of people, actually, that they've said to me in the past, I've done my very first interview, Guy, which was with Tom Connell, and we talked about his rise to artistic director at Trevor Sorbie. But there'll be some people that actually have no idea what it means to be an artistic director. So maybe could you explain what is an artistic director?
Yeah, I guess in a way I'm still trying to figure it out, but I do. I mean, I guess it's almost like, you know, I feel like a bit of a right-hand person for Jordana and her team. And it's like she's got an incredible career doing a lot of traveling, a lot of shows, and just a lot of creative work. And I've kind of like brought that, like almost the bridge of that into the salon work. So I guess just like, being like there for her as like as a creative. I don't really know if that makes sense, but yeah.
It makes great sense. I think for me, when I started out in my career, and that's why I also wanted to ask that for me, that was almost a pinnacle in my career, that I wanted to be an artistic director, because I kind of saw that as quite a creative vision, almost that producer working on these sort of, you know, collections and shows. And I did actually see you, Guy, didn't I? You were working backstage at the TrendVision Awards for... What a show that the Cobella the team put on.
It was unbelievable. It blew my mind, actually.
Yeah, it was, but the looks were great. You know, I had the honor to go behind the scenes and I chatted to Jordana. How much work goes into doing a show like that?
Man, so Jordana must have worked so hard. She had just had a baby as well, and I don't know how she did it, to be honest. I didn't have a lot to do with the planning, actually. I was like super busy with a lot of other work, so I wasn't completely there for her when it came to the planning. But when I kind of got to TrendVision, I had like quite a busy schedule, and when I got to TrendVision, and I was like, okay, cool, these are what we're doing. This is the looks that we're doing, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful work. And I'd seen some of it from the collection shoot that she had shot for British Hairdresser of the year that she's nominated for. So I'd seen some of the looks, and to see it kind of like come to life was just unreal. I don't know how she actually even came up with that stuff, let alone had the time on top of having a baby. It was crazy.
Yeah, super inspirational. But so let's get back to yourself, Guy, and let's understand your journey that's led you to where you are, and maybe get some lessons about your advice on the industry, maybe some of the things that you could maybe offer to our listener. But let's just kick off with maybe something that you would regard as a real transformative moment in your industry career that you believe has set the stage for where you are today.
There's definitely a couple monumental moments. I think when I was in South Africa, Wella, South Africa, sent me a message and said, hey, there's this competition for the Destinations event. It was in Morocco that year in 2019. They were like, enter this competition. I just thought I had to do a model on stage. When I entered and I won, they were like, okay, cool, this is actually what you had to do. And I had to create a show, like a whole hair show with 8 models. And it was way beyond what I imagined it being. So I was obviously super scared. I'd never put a hair show together before. And I don't think Wella Global knew that. But anyway, I did it. It was a huge success, like massive success. Like everyone at Wella were like over the moon about what happened. And I was super proud of what I did. And I think that really kind of put me on the map in a sense since then. Obviously, COVID happened. I was in South Africa, super far away from everything. And then I guess, so I had a bit of a break in a sense from the world industry. And then in last year, 2023, got invited to the Wella Destinations event again. And I kind of saw the big world of hairdressing, and it really inspired me again just to like get out there and like really get into like show work, education work worldwide. And then I actually got an invite to the Davines Village and got to hang out with Tom Connell and Ashley Hodges.
I love you sharing all that, Guy, though, because that for me, I think is so important, isn't it, for people in the industry who are maybe a little bit disconnected from what's going on there. By going out and entering it, these can be transformative moments.
No doubt. They can really just like put you in so many different places. Like, I mean, I have one like TrendVision in South Africa, and that was probably the first thing that I did that really changed my career, that really put me on the map in a South African sense. And then from there, it just like snowballs.
Can I don't just go into that part? You said it put you on the map. When you say it put you on the map, what do you mean by put you on the map? How did it put you on the map?
I guess it just exposes you to like so many different other places in the industry. Like all of a sudden you're kind of known because you've won something. Your name is out there. I remember meeting someone in the company, Wella, before one day, and he was just like, oh yeah, I've seen your name in lights before. And it's like, it kind of like does put your name in lights, It's like all of a sudden you have a bit of a name because you have a little bit of a title of something you've achieved.
Does that put your name in lights? Because I always think sometimes we talk about put our name in light. Is that put your name in lights to the industry, or is it put your name in lights to the consumer, to your clients? Where does it put your name in lights?
I think it's more in the industry. In my mind, the clients are very disconnected to what goes on in the niche world of hairdressing. Obviously, unless you're telling them and kind of promoting the fact that you've won, they still don't know. And I think even if you're explaining to them that you've won this hair competition, they don't really know what it means. So I think in the industry, it's a big thing, yeah.
Why is it important then to get your name in lights in the industry?
I guess it depends what you want out of your career. Like if you want to be able to do different things, work with different brands, kind of travel, for instance, to do education, if that's kind of something you're looking for, then obviously you want your name to shine bright. And
do you think you have to have that sort of success in competitions to get those opportunities?
Not necessarily. I just think as long as you show like passion, determination, and put yourself in the right places, meet the right people, I think a lot of that is, almost more important than winning competitions. Like I won a few competitions, yes, but I think my network is great. Like I've been able to find the right people in the right spaces and really use that ecosystem to grow.
What comes first in your minds as a hairdresser? Does the industry stuff light you up probably more so than maybe the day-to-day behind the chair, or what would you say?
I think so. I really do love the creative side of like kind of show work and education work, and I love seeing those light bulb moments go on with amongst other hairdressers when you're kind of showing them something or demonstrating something, and the feedback you get from that. It's like, passionate hairdressers are always really fun to work with, so I love that. But I do love the appreciation of client work, and when you're loved for what you've done, and that instant gratitude that you get from a client because they love what you've done. So I do love that mix.
What's your signature style of work, Guy?
I guess at the moment it's quite like textured, short, medium haircuts, mullets, shags, very organic hair. So almost like lived in cuts, lived in color. Yeah. And then I guess when it comes to show work, a little bit more like grungy, alternative. But I feel like I kind of bridge the gap of super creative and commercial. So I'm somewhere like in the middle of that world, or those two worlds.
Is it a good place to be somebody that likes that type of work right now when we're talking about trends in the industry?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of what everyone wants in a sense. It's kind of like where the world of hairdressing seems like it's kind of going into a lot more like organic.
Yeah, because I mean, you're in the creative hub of Cobella Salon, which is in Kensington, I believe,
Yes,
still, isn't
yes,
it?
yes.
So you're in the creative hub of London. So you have a real heartbeat of what's going on in terms of trends in the industry. And I know you're very present on
Yeah.
socials. What do you feel is the real trends when we're talking about the street trends? Where are we at right now?
I've always been a big fan of like kind of the DIY style hair. It looks like someone's done it themselves, for instance. And even when it comes to the color, like it's not too pretty, it's not too perfect. The cuts aren't too pretty, they're not too perfect. They're like wearable, they're lived in, they look like they've almost done it themselves. So just very natural. I really like hair to be worn naturally. That's how I like to cut hair. I like to cut hair to almost to look good without anything in, without anything done to it. Obviously, if you're putting styling products or actually styling it, it's just aiding it.
Does your work cross over into colouring as well?
Yeah, I do color. Yeah.
Okay. And do you
and I
enjoy
think-
colouring?
I do enjoy coloring. And I do also like kind of the natural approach to coloring. I almost like it to look like it hasn't been colored, regardless of like if it is more of a creative tone. I still want it to look lived in. I don't want it to be too perfect. It's like
Yeah,
when you
okay.
do that color and it's been washed a few times, so it's just like settled nicely. I really like trying to create that.
I just want to, again, just shout out for our listener who wants to just go and have a look at your work. Where's the best place for them? Is it on your Instagram? And maybe you could just
Yeah.
tell us of your
I would
Instagram
say
handle.
so. My handle is Guy Does Hair. Very easy, just my name and then I do hair. Guy Does Hair.
Super easy. Okay, so that's Guy Does Hair. Go and have a look at Guy's work. And
Yeah.
I think, I know you'll be a bigger fan as what I am to the hair that he's talking about here. But what about socials? How important has that been for you in your growth?
I think that's been pretty massive. Obviously, it's a huge part in the industry at the moment, and or it has been for a very long time. I started doing it just because I really liked taking photographs of my work at one point, and I really got passionate about that. And then obviously posting it, and then all of a sudden it got a bit of traction, and then I could see it was kind of like growing me in the client sense. I was getting a lot of feedback from clients and getting a lot of new clients from it, as well as I was getting known in the industry in South Africa because of it. So I think that's how I first started working with Wella in South Africa, was because of my social media. And ever since I definitely grew a bit of a following, like a network in the UK as well, which was really cool. So when I made the move to London, I already had a strong connection with people, meeting some of them. And it's been such an incredible journey meeting your Instagram friends and like hair heroes.
We often moan about social media. That's why I
Yeah, no
ask you,
doubt.
because there's a lot of love-hate for it. But I think our careers, all of us, the certainly shining out in the industry for what we do, would maybe look very different without social media. Do you feel, for you, again, if we didn't have this world of socials, that your career could look very different and your life could look different?
Yeah, I definitely think so. My reach would just not be as big. I don't think I would know the people I know at all, and I don't think I would have the opportunities that I have without it. It's a pain because it does feel like a second job a lot of the time, but I enjoy creating content, so I get a big kick out of that.
So let's get
Definitely.
back to you, Guy, in terms of, I want to get to know you better now. Where did you start in hairdressing, and why did it become such a passion of yours?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I was actually just playing golf. I wanted to be a professional golfer. It was really random. I was playing golf and I don't know, it wasn't going that well. It was going okay. And I almost lost just a little passion. And I had a few friends who turned pro and I kind of realized it wasn't the coolest life that it looked like it was going to be. And my auntie kind of sat me down and she was like, look, you need to find a job. and she owned a hair salon at the time. She was like, come work in the salon. And I just told her she was crazy. And she was like, no, like, just hear me out. You're going to be really good. And I really see you as, because she knew I was pretty creative. She was like, you would be a really good hairdresser. So anyway, I kind of still thought she was crazy, went back home, started kind of Googling hairdressers, and a lot of the UK hairdressers, like the London hairdressers, like say A.D. Fielding, Lee Stafford, a lot of those guys were popping up on my feed, and I did like a lot of research, and I kind of saw that there was a cool life in hairdressing. And yeah, I one day just told her, I was like, cool, let me try it out. And literally from day one, I walked into the salon and I just loved it. Like, everyone in the salon was super happy to have me there. So they were showing me, you know, how to wash hair, how to blow dry hair, how to curl hair with the GHD, all those little cool things. And I was like, this is super fun. And like from that day, I knew this is what I was going to do forever, basically.
And the salon that you worked at in Cape Town, was it a well-recognized salon? And did they open
really.
your eyes to the industry, or did you have to go and find the industry that you talked about earlier?
Yeah, so it's a pretty small salon in like a smallish town. But the stylists there were really good and very, very versatile. A lot of them could do a lot of things, and they were all had their little niche, and I would learn a lot from each individual. And one of them liked a little bit of competition work, and he was a very creative hair. He kind of took me under his wing when it came to competition work and stuff, and really put me into those scenarios. And that really helped me a lot, because I'd enter kind of the local South African competitions and do pretty well. And all of a sudden my world of hairdressing just like kind of spanned out, and I could see what it could give you and the excitement it could bring you. And yeah, that was really, really special.
And what's the hairstyling scene like, or was like, in Cape Town? How would you best describe it?
It's really cool. There's a lot of talented hairdressers and a lot of creative people and a lot of beautiful people. So there's a lot of good hair out there.
Yeah, and how did that help sort of shape maybe your initial approach to the industry by what was going on around you?
I think, you know, it helps to have creative people around. I take a lot of inspiration from kind of the outside world and seeing just cool people. When I started hairdressing, the mullet was actually pretty cool. So I started hairdressing in 2008. And in my area, mullets were a bit of a thing, which was really random. So I was like, when I started hairdressing, I started cutting mullets. And then obviously it kind of disappeared, now it's back. So it's like kind of like a little, when fashion returns, it's kind of like in that loop right now. But yeah, so I had a lot of creative clients, and that definitely helped me.
In terms of sort of working your way through in the scene in Cape Town, and you got that creative approach, was moving to London always going to be that thing for you? Do you feel like, or was there maybe other places in the world, you know, America? Maybe just start to talk us through into how London pulled you in.
So, I mean, I've always looked up to UK hairdressing. I do believe that it's like the mecca of hairdressing. So I just think it's like the best place for a hairdresser to be. And it's always looked that way from the outside. I'd never really experienced it since I'd been in Cape Town, but it always looked like the best place to be. All the superstars are from London and have been from London. So yes, that was definitely high up on the list. But last year when I was at the Davines Village, I was with like Tom Connell, and I kind of just saw his life as creative director for Davines, and I was like, this guy's life looks insane. And I even messaged him and I was like, dude, I would love a job like yours one day. He was super kind enough to like jump on a call with me, gave me a ton of advice. And yeah, I was kind of looking elsewhere, potentially somewhere in Europe. But I don't know, London was just seemed like the best move just because of the network that I have out there. And it really has been. It's been incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, you've referenced Tom Connell a couple of times now. I'm a massive fan of Tom too.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yourself, I love his taste level, and yeah, I was super grateful that he was my first guest that I ever interviewed, and really enjoyed that chat. But the thing about, like, you talk about, you know, career in the hair industry, is there moments that you've lost that spark for the industry, and how have you pulled yourself out of it?
Yeah, I think I definitely have lulls. Just try and break a bit of my, like, sometimes you find yourself in a bit of a hamster wheel of like maybe repetition, doing kind of similar things. So I just try and break that, whether I like get a mannequin head out and just like mess around. I don't think, just play around and see what comes. Or even just having conversations with people, like if you have a network, if you can jump on the call with like Tom Connell or whatever, or anyone, or just message someone on Instagram and just like pick their brain a bit. I try and do that every now and then. Or just get models, like get like some cool looking people, do some cool hair, take some cool content. And like, I always love that reward of having that content and like looking back on it and like really getting a kick out of that. That normally kind of pulls me out of a lull.
I really like that, and I'm going to cut that one because I think that's really important, because I think we all have it. And again, you're just carrying on a conversation that we had at yesterday's Platform Connect, and you have to work at it sometimes, Guy, don't you? Hairdressing can be a little bit repetitious at times, but it's down to us in changing that, isn't it? You've got to go out and find new ideas, and I love how you pulled that in and get that inspiration. Is there any other little geeky things that you do about in the industry that maybe just help you geek out even more about what you do?
Being in London is pretty cool because there's just so many different hair events that happen, like big and small. So I just try and tap into as much as possible. For instance, there was Salon International a few weeks ago, and there were so many little things happening, like at Enna, well, the Alilon Salon, like there was an open house event, and just going there, like tickets were cheap. You just go hang out with really
I wish
cool
I made that. I heard
hairdressing
it was a brilliant event.
so
wasn't
good. It? Yeah, that was mind blowing. And then, for instance, there was just the Noise event as well, Richard Ashford's event, and that was super sick. Like that lineup was incredible. So things like that really get me super excited.
Yeah, I guess it's aspirational for yourself to sort of work towards that. In terms of coming to London, has there been any, what challenges have you had in that transition, and how have you overcome them?
Oh, there's been a lot. Although it's been a very breezy ride, there's always tons of challenges. I just think, getting used to a whole new city and a whole new life. Cape Town is very chilled, so it's relaxing, where London is super intense, so it drains you. It's an intense life out there. So you've got to really like take time for yourself and just like regroup every now and then. I find you can spread yourself very thin in that city and in that environment, especially with the work culture being very exciting. It's very draining. So you kind of have to just find that balance of like self-care as well as enjoying your life. So yeah, that was something to get used to for sure.
What differences have you seen in the industry in London, maybe that you kind of didn't realise, the good and maybe not so good, maybe UK hairdressing in general? Is there things that have stood out for you that you're like, okay, this is great, this is not so great?
To be honest, I really love the fact that like everyone kind of knows each other and everyone loves each other and supports each other regardless of like where you're from or like, what brand you're a part of. Like everyone in that world support each other. And I've really loved that. Like the people that I've met that I've always looked up to are like, oh wow, these people are actually really nice. Because there's nothing worse than like meeting your heroes and they're not that nice, So I've really loved like that. The community is incredible.
Yeah, I think that's what's really
that in a sense.
Yeah. Has there been any things that you've not been so taken by?
Nothing in the industry so far. Maybe the weather.
Yeah. Do you know, that's a really important thing that you've just said, right? Because you say that with a smile, right? But then, some of the team at Weller, there's a new person in their role, and I think they're from Portugal, and we actually had a conversation about this. You may know what I'm talking about here. Yeah. And so she was saying that she really struggles with the weather, and that can impact you. So how do you deal with the weather?
To be honest,
get a brolly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm quite a happy guy, like in general. So the weather doesn't really bother me too much. I kind of enjoy the rain, so I love just even getting out there if I can and just like get a little bit wet. I love riding my bicycle, so even if I'm riding in the rain, I'm quite happy. It's quite like a thrilling adventure. So I try not to let it get me down, basically.
That's fair enough. How are you finding the cost of living of London?
It is obviously super expensive and madly like more expensive than Cape Town, but I'm definitely managing it pretty well. I think I'm good at budgeting, so I'm okay at it, and I think I save a lot of money because I just cycle everywhere.
That saves it. We don't need to drive in London, do you?
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of getting out, so because sometimes I say London feels like in its own country inside the UK.
really
Almost,
is,
it's a very different culturally. Have you been able to sort of get out into the UK and look around and see what's happening on the hair scene?
Not as much as I like, but I think doing events like, for instance, Haircon, that was cool to see a bunch of hairdressers from all over the country in one place. Yeah. So I try and keep that network strong when it's through social media. But I would like to explore a little bit more of the UK in the industry.
Haircon. Tell me about the show that you done at Haircon, because you was involved there on stage.
Yeah, that was incredible. It was a huge honor to I guess, get a part on the main stage. And yeah, it was super fun. I was obviously super nervous because it was my first UK hair show and I don't think anyone knew who I was. So I kind of just did what I felt like doing. And I think it was quite different to what a lot of the artists were doing during that time frame. But it was really fun. I just had a a couple of haircuts on stage, just very much a lot of loud music, a lot of flashing lights and a lot of cool looking models.
I think that you represent that sort of generation of hairstylists coming in, and where we're kind of set now. And do you feel the industry has become a little bit stagnant in its creativity, or are we seeing new? Have we done everything and now it's kind of like I've seen it all before? And how can we make educating more exciting, where you actually think, oh God, I really want to get educated here? Do you have any advice on that or thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it is a good point. I feel like it is a little bit stagnant, but at the same time that there's like so many pockets of so many talented hairdressers from like all over the world that are doing incredible things. So I think it's almost about to like those people are coming through and about to break the surface of like the stagnantness.
Who are those breakthroughs, Guy? Is there any names that can come?
There's a Swedish hairdresser. Her name is Sophia. She's from little hair factory in Stockholm. Her and there's another lady called Grace. She's with View.
Grace Dalglish.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
I really love their work. Like they're doing such incredible stuff.
Yeah, because I feel like we talk about a lot of our iconic names in the industry, and I just think, who are the new breakthroughs? So if I'm sort of doing an introducing show, watch this space, by the way, I want to introduce the sort of new talents of the new era. Who are going to be the new Trevor Sorby? Who's going to be the new Anthony Muscolo? Who's going to be the new Lee Stafford, Beverly Cobella? All these people. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just wonder, is it because everything's done, or is it just is socials become such a big part of that?
I guess so, but I feel like, it kind of comes in music where you're waiting for that classic. You're in a generation and you're like, oh, I wonder what that classic is going to be. What is the classic going to be? And then finally it gets to that classic and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Now that's the people. So I think we're almost in that little like transitional phase of like finding the next generation of people. So there are pockets of greatness. Those people are there, but they just haven't broken the surface. I guess we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about the industry. Me too. Like you, I feel like you are a real breakthrough artist, if you want to call that. Breakthrough doesn't mean you have to be 17, but I think you're a breakthrough. You've made a name for yourself, but it's almost now starting to come to the attention of a greater sort of number of people. And I just feel really excited by the rise of the content hair creators, if we want to call it that, because I think that's what you're seeing. Is there anything in your career that's really paid off for you, Guy?
Oh, so many things. I have actually recently joined Hair in Motion. They're an education company run by Charlie.
Charlie Gray.
Yeah. So that has been a massive breakthrough for me. To be honest, I'm still pinching myself at a lot of the achievements that have happened since I moved to London, and this is definitely one of them. It's pretty unbelievable. And his team are incredible. So I think a lot of the people in his team and him himself, I think those are going to be the people who are like breaking through.
Love Charlie. I think we're going to bring them onto the podcast soon.
Definitely.
Yeah, because he really took men's hairdressing from his men's Spire days, and I brought Charlie on, some years ago actually. So, but love what he's doing with Hair Motion. Highly recommend people go and check out that. What advice would you give to the hair generation coming through? So, let's just say we've got a room full of students listening to you, Guy. What are you going to say to them who are maybe looking to make some big, bold moves in their careers like you have done?
For me, my passion definitely gives me a huge kick because it just makes me love what I do, and loving what I do doesn't make it feel like work in a sense. It just feels like this is a career hobby, if that makes sense. It feels like everything I do is a hobby.
Career hobby.
Yeah.
I'm going to be using that one at a time.
Yeah, I just feel like this is like hairdressing is a hobby for me, but it's just this incredible career that I have. It's still unbelievable.
And you said it earlier on, actually, and I think that was great advice to take from what you said about when you just need to get a little bit more evolving again. It's just lighting yourself up again in the industry when you're feeling a bit flat, is to go out there and you have to work at it, don't you? You have to explore what's going on in the industry. What about you in terms of education? Because quite often I say to people, where are you getting educated? Does your education stop and you just evolve in what you do? Maybe tell me about that.
Yeah, I definitely use the Hair in Motion platform a lot at the moment. It's a really good platform, and there's a bunch of things that you can learn from. I think there's like 200 videos, so I'm still trying to get through all of them. I use a lot of online stuff, and then obviously if there's things in my area that I'm able to attend, I go to that. And just like being at Salon International was inspiring enough.
Last night we were again talking about education and actually saying that sometimes, how do we make education exciting where you think, actually, I don't know if I want to stand here and watch a haircut for 1 hour. Is there any way that we can maybe start to evolve the way that we deliver education? Is there some new ideas that we could look at and bring it into the industry, more bite-sized?
That's what I'm trying to I think it's definitely happened before, but I went back to Cape Town for a little while and went to the salon that I work at when I'm in Cape Town called Scar. It's owned by some friends of mine, and they're such an incredible salon. They've been around for like 20-something years. They're doing incredible work, and I did a little hair show with them the other day, and it was more of like a little hair party. So 4 of us were doing hair all together, and like the whole crowd just kind of like got up and like was hanging around us, and it became so much more intimate because like you've got someone in your ear while you're cutting hair, and they're like, oh, what are you doing here? And you get to explain to them like super live, super intimate, and show them exactly what your hands are doing and how that blade is cutting through, and I really liked that. It felt like they were there cutting their hair with me. That was fun.
Nice. I'm going to be asking everybody this who I really sort of admire and what they're doing and their approach in the industry, because I think we've got to start to reinvent it a little bit again.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because what about sort of marching forward then, Guy? I know it's hard to plan, none of us can say, look, 5 years time, but certainly in the next 6 months, where are you going to be taking things? How are you going to keep evolving?
I guess I've been traveling a lot and teaching a lot and seeing a lot of Europe through my work, which has been incredible. A lot of hair shows in different countries, a lot of education in different countries, and I've really been enjoying that. So I would definitely like to do a lot more of that next year, but obviously it's quite tiring, it's quite taxing, so I want to try and maybe have a bit of a set schedule and maybe use my time a little bit differently, not spread myself too thin. So try to find consistency in that and try and find a good rhythm in that world. And obviously just get to see more places in the world. This has been the most incredible adventure.
Do you plan to maybe go and work in other parts of the world?
I would always
show work.
Travel with show work for sure. And I mean, for instance, now that I'm in Amsterdam, it was like I was here for 2 days of education, but I was like, do you mind if I do 2 days of clients in the salon? And they were cool with that. So I try and do that in some countries that I go to as well, just to kind of break the routine. And that's been super fun. So I'd definitely like to do more of that next year, for sure.
You work with Cobella and Weller professionals as well. Is there part of you where you are an independent hair educator as well? And do you offer that?
Yeah, definitely.
People in the industry?
Yeah, most of the stuff, I am still technically freelance. I do a lot of work with Weller though, but I still work with other brands.
How do you see yourself working long term?
I would definitely like to travel as much as possible for as long as possible, but I know it's not sustainable for you know, as I get older, because it is taxing. So eventually I would like to, you know, maybe just travel a little bit less for work and have a bit more of a base, and maybe have more of a creative director role within a company, within a brand.
And you have not once said about being a salon owner.
Oh yeah, this is an interesting one. I actually had a salon in Cape Town, in Stellenbosch actually for 9 years. I started when I was 21 or something. I got very lucky.
Right.
Asked my auntie for a little bit of money, and yeah, opened a little salon with a friend of mine. And he left after like a year and a half, 2 years, and I had it for myself for the rest of the time. What is that, 7 years? So yeah,
What was your experiences like of being that salon owner then, Guy?
It was incredible. It was a journey, you know, like good days and bad days, I guess. I definitely grew so much within that space, as a person and as a hairdresser, and I guess as a leader. You know, having a little team was challenging, but I quite liked the challenges. It was like, you know, when like something goes wrong and you're like, why do I have to deal with it? But you kind of get a kick out of sorting it out and solving it. Yeah. But
so
eventually
7 years. Why did it come to an end?
I kind of just got tired of it. I was like at a stage where I was like, you know, I've had this space for 9 years and I've been working in this space for 9 years, and I started doing a little more creative work outside of the salon. And I was like, oh, I kind of see my career going into the more travel, education, platform work. And then, yeah, I just ended up selling it to one of our stylists there, and they still have it. It's still going strong, and it's still a beautiful space.
Do you think you've scratched that itch, or is there a part of you that's maybe still thinking maybe there's still a salon or a studio space?
I've definitely scratched that itch for now, but that itch could come back. I never say never. So yeah, maybe one day. I do romanticize it every now and then about having like my own little studio space with like a little beautiful team that are all really passionate hairdressers.
I mean, I'm seeing that you're seeing a lot of these spaces pop up now, aren't we, Guy? Like Mash Studio with Ashley Hodges has created these little spaces that have turned into event hubs as well, which I think is really cool. I like how the industry is kind of going more for, you know, yes, we have this our spaces, but it's how we use those spaces, and we could be so creative. And again, it's the content hairdresser that is creating all this.
No doubt. I use a space in London that's called Grid Studios. It's on Old Street, and it is just like, do you know it? Okay, yeah, Danny.
I do. Yeah, we do. Fantastic. Love what he's doing there.
Yeah, me too. He's such a legend. And
he's coming on the podcast soon.
Oh, really? Cool. That's
yes,
great.
yeah.
But yeah, so I love that space, and just like those things are so cool, you know, like content creation spaces. Epic.
Honestly, you the generation that I'm seeing right now, and I put yourselves all in that, and Danny and a whole mix of you down there, and you just, I think you're really taking the industry up again.
It feels like
loving it. Yeah, it is. Like I'm so excited by it, and I feel like in lots of ways as well, Guy, we kind of not got to challenge the barber industry, because at the end of the day, we shouldn't put ourselves in genres. At the end of the day, we're all doing hair, whether it's on a male, female, regardless, it's hair. But the barber industry kind of, I felt that they really tightened in on a culture and a community. And I think maybe the hair industry, we lost that a little bit for a while. You know, okay, we had our friends in Hairbrained who doing great things, but maybe there's this sort of new community that's kind of creating a new culture in the hair industry.
I feel like I'm a part of it. I'm this rebirth of the industry. It feels like I'm a part of it, and it's like it's cool to see it coming. Yeah.
If you were going to have a legacy in the industry, remembered by, what's that going to be?
I guess I just really want to inspire people, but just leave like a good vibe. Like I really just love making people feel good and happy.
I love your whole approach. You know, you don't seem to have any kind of diva approach to it, but you're just very passionate about what you're doing. I feel like you just are absorbing the industry. You're on a journey, and I'm excited to watch that journey. I think there's going to be a lot to come from you, and you know, could we see you in awards, collections?
Possibly, yeah. I definitely have a few bucket list things that I would like to achieve, like some goals. And yeah, there's definitely a few of those kind of things in there.
I need to go through these bucket lists with people because it'd be interesting to hear all those bucket lists, wouldn't it? What's in there? Okay, just remind our listener again, just to connect with you.
So just Guy Does Hair.
Simple as.
Easy.
Let's not over confuse it. Guy Does Hair, and I guess is that the place of where you go and find your work. Explore links in there which may link us off to anything that's happening in the future. You work with Hair in Motion, Wella, Cobella, all that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the cool thing about Instagram, I've definitely used it as just a network and connect with people. So if anyone's out there wants to ask me anything about anything, pick my brain a bit.
And what about TikTok
advice
as well? We always see Instagram, but TikTok for me is just as big. A lot of people have a big place on TikTok. Have you got a presence there?
It's very small. I struggle to kind of spread myself all over the place with social media.
Maybe
but I would like to get better at it.
Yeah, maybe sometimes we're trying to spread ourselves to exactly the same people that are on another platform, if that makes sense. Again, and that's for the listener as well. You must always try and work out who you're trying to reach. Is it your consumer, your business, or is it people in the industry? I get from you, Guy, that yours is about industry, isn't it? You want people in the industry to follow you.
Yeah, I want to inspire the industry, so yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Guy, honestly, I'm so glad that we connected a long time ago. I'm so glad to have you over here in the UK. It's been a real pleasure to sit down and bring you onto the podcast today. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Dom. It's honestly been such a dream come true, this. I've always looked up to you in the podcast, and I literally since the first episode, I've been a huge fan. And you've done such incredible things in the industry. I remember as we started the podcast, I would just wait for that new episode, and it would really just be so inspiring to hear people's stories in the industry. It's things you never get to see. It's the behind the scenes of someone's life in an episode. I remember driving to work and just getting so hyped about these people you'd bring over. So yeah, honestly, thank you for being such a legend in the industry. Thank you.
Mate, honestly, hearing that is just incredible. And you know what? And I'm just going to finish on saying that what you just described there is exactly the type of podcast that you've just brought to us today. And I think you're going to hype a lot of people as well, Guy. So thank you, honestly.
I hope so. I feel like the industry needs it. Yeah, we need it. This industry is such a fun industry. It's the most beautiful job, career, hobby in the world. I think it brings me so much joy. It brings so much people joy. And I feel like more people should do it.
Power to the hairdresser. That's what I say. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dom. I really appreciate the time and the honor.